So today we're going to be starting our poetry unit off with a mini lesson on rhyming and rhythm in poetry. We're just going to be starting with this presentation that gives us an overview of what different rhyming styles can be used in poetry, as well as what rhythm is in poetry. We're then going to be doing a read aloud of some poems, and we're going to be looking at what different styles they use and kind of listening to their rhythms. And then you guys are going to have the opportunity to write your own rhyming or rhythmic poems. So let's get started with our presentation. We're going to start off with what is rhyming. A rhyme is words that sound similar to each other when they're said out loud, like cat, hat, mat, and pat. We have shoe, who, to, and you. Wait, gate, late, and hate. So I want you guys to think for a minute of a few words that come to mind that rhyme, and then when they pop into your head, feel free to share. Yeah, that's really good. Shoes, whose, and lose. They all have the same ooze sound at the end, so they rhyme really well together. Like cat, hat, mat, and pat, they all have an at sound, so they all rhyme. Same with shoe, who, to, and you. They have that ooh sound. Wait, gate, late, hate. They have an eight sound that rhymes them together. So what we just did was rhyming with end rhymes. That is probably the most familiar way that a lot of people know what rhyming is. It's repeating the ending sound using two or more lines in a poem. So a really good example of rhyming with end rhymes is 1, 2, buckle my shoe. So that line, the end sound is to and shoe. They both have that ooh sound, so they rhyme. The next line, 3, 4, open the door. 4 and door have an or sound, so they rhyme. But rhyming with end rhymes is not the only way that you can make rhymes in your poems. You can rhyme with alliteration. So alliteration is just repeating the same first letter of a word, of two or more words in a poem. So here we have, Peter Piper picked a peck of pickled peppers. A peck of pickled peppers Peter Piper picked. Wow, that is a tongue twister. But you're repeating that P sound, that letter P. So you're creating a really fun and unique rhythm in your poem by repeating that same letter. Now, it doesn't rhyme as perfectly as shoe and who and you, but it does still sound similar, so it is considered a rhyme. Same with rhyming with assonance. That is another repetition, but this time you're not repeating a certain letter, you're just repeating a certain vowel sound. So we have hickory dickory dock as our example. Hickory dickory dock, the mouse ran up the clock. The clock struck 1, the mouse ran down, hickory dickory dock. So in this poem, they are repeating the ah sound, that O vowel. So you can see hickory, dickory, dock. And then clock, down. There's that O vowel that is being repeated. And again, it's not a perfect rhyme like ending rhymes are, but it still creates a rhythm, and the sounds are still similar to each other, so it is considered a rhyme. Now, kind of the opposite of rhyming with assonance is rhyming with consonants. And that is pretty self-explanatory. You're just repeating consonant sounds in your poem. So this poem is also kind of a tongue twister. But a flea and a fly flew up and a flew. Said the fly, let us flee. Said the flea, let us fly. Said the fly, let us flee. So they flew through a flaw in the flue. So this poem is repeating the fl sound, the FL consonants that make the fl sound. So we have flee, fly, flew, flew, flaw. So that, again, is not a perfect rhyme, but still makes a really cool rhythm by using similar sounds. So now we're going to be talking about rhyme scheme. This is something that's going to be really important today when you guys are making your own poems. A rhyme scheme is a way of describing the pattern of end rhymes in a poem. Rhyme schemes are a great way to create rhythm in poetry. And today we're going to be talking about 3 different rhyme schemes. I'll explain them on the next slide. So if you're a bit confused by all the different letters here, that'll all make sense in a moment. But firstly, we have rhyme scheme AABB. Then we have ABAB. And then we have ABCB. So let's take a look at what those are. So our first example is going to be rhyme scheme AABB. So in this poem here we have, my cat is nice, my cat likes mice, my cat is fat, I like my cat. So based on just reading that one time, do you guys notice anything about the first 2 lines? Yeah, they rhyme, and same with the last 2 lines, but they rhyme with different sounds. So the first 2 lines have the ice sound, as in nice and mice. The last 2 lines have the at sound in fat and cat. So you can see that the ice rhyming sound is our A, here too, and the at rhyming sound is our B. So that's why the structure of the rhyme scheme is called AABB. So now let's take a look at our second rhyme scheme. This one is pretty common. This one is also very fun to write. We have, my cat is nice, my cat is fat, my cat likes mice, I like my cat. So again, we have the ice sound is our A, the at sound is our B, but you can see it's kind of different setup than this first one. We have ice at. So that's why it's our A sound, our B sound, our A sound, and our B sound. It's just kind of interchanging and repeating. So again, my cat is nice, my cat is fat, my cat likes mice, I like my cat. So you can see that that one kind of has a bit of a different flow or a different rhythm than my cat is nice, my cat likes mice, my cat is fat, I like my cat. The rhythm is a little bit different based on how you set up your rhymes, so that's something to definitely keep in mind when you guys, again, are writing your own poems later. Okay, now we're going to talk about the last rhyme scheme. Now this one looks different because these first 2 only have A and B as our letters, but this one has a C as well. So let's take a look at what that C means. So in our poem, our first line, my cat is gray, my cat is fat, my cat is cute, I like my cat. So we have a different rhyming sound in there. We have ray as our ending sound and ute as our ending sound. So this is our A because it comes first, and this is our B, that at sound. Now this one is another new sound, so it gets its own letter because it doesn't repeat. If it was something that rhymed with gray, it would be an A-B rhyme scheme, but since it doesn't rhyme with A and it makes its own ending sound, it gets its own letter, so it's C. But then that at sound is repeated again, so we have another B. So when you say this one has a really cool rhythm compared to the other 2. My cat is gray, my cat is fat, my cat is cute, I like my cat. So the rhythms might sound kind of similar, but the way that you set up your poems and the way that you structure your rhyme schemes really affects the way your poem rolls off the tongue when you read it out loud. Okay. So now we've been talking a lot about rhythm, but what is rhythm? A rhythm is when a poet stresses and understresses syllables in their poem that kind of creates a beat, a certain flow of a poem. So we saw that back on this side when we say, my cat is gray, my cat is fat, my cat is cute, I like my cat. You can kind of feel a beat when you say those words. So that's basically just what rhythm is talking about. You can also see that in the nursery rhyme, Mary Had a Little Lamb. It has a very distinct rhythm when you sing it or when you even say it out loud. Do you guys know any other songs or poems that have repeating rhythmic patterns or distinct rhythms that you guys can think of? I'll give you guys a minute. It's kind of a tricky question. Yeah, Twinkle Twinkle Little Star has a rhythm too. That is also a nursery rhyme. If you stress certain syllables or under stress certain syllables, that gives you a rhythm. Here's a really important note to remember. A poem does not have to rhyme or use a certain rhythm to be good. Rhyming words and a fun rhythm are simply just ways for you to get creative and personalize your own poetry. So today we're going to be learning about rhyming and rhythm in poetry, just to introduce poetry as a whole and just kind of dip our toes into our poetry unit. But there is poetry that doesn't rhyme, and it's still just as good as poetry that does rhyme. So please remember that a poem does not have to rhyme. Okay, so now that we've finished our presentation, we can start our read aloud. And I'm going to have you guys try and recognize which rhyme scheme each poem is using. So let's start with a poem from Falling Up by Shel Silverstein. Okay, this one is called Obedient. Teacher said, "You don't obey. You fidget and twidget and won't sit down. So go stand in the corner now, till I say you can turn around." So there I stood till it got dark, without a whimper or a tear, till everybody else went home. I guess that she forgot me here. And that was Friday, so I stayed all through the weekend, being good. And Monday was the first day of summer vacation, so I stood through hot July and sticky August, trying to obey her rule. Stood right there until September, when, yikes, they closed down the school. Boarded up the doors and windows, moved to a new one-way cross town. So I stood here for 40 years in dark and dust and creaky sounds, waiting for her to say, turn around. This might not be just what she meant, but me, I'm so obedient. So let's take a look at those last two, how many? 4 lines. In dark and dust and creaky sounds, waiting for her to say, turn around. This might not be just what she meant, but me, I'm so obedient. Can you guys think of what rhyme scheme that might be? So we have dark and dust and creaky sounds, waiting for her to say, turn around. So is that repeating the same end sound? So that would be our AA. Next we have that, this might not be just what she meant, but me, I'm so obedient. So that ent sound, is that repeating? Yes. So that would be our BB. But the whole poem doesn't follow the same structure. Let's see. So there I stood till it got dark, without a whimper or a tear, till everybody else went home. I guess that she forgot me here. So we have our ending sound, dark, arc, tear, ear, home, ohm, and here, ear. So we're only repeating 2 sounds. We're repeating the ear sound in tear and here, but there's 2 other separate sounds. So what rhyme scheme does that seem like? Yes, the ABCB. All right, so our next poem is it's In Where the Sidewalk Ends by Shel Silverstein, and it's called Jimmy Jet and His TV Set. I'll tell you the story of Jimmy Jet, and you know what I'll tell you is true. He loved to watch his TV set almost as much as you. He watched all day, he watched all night, till he grew pale and lean, from the early show to the late show and all shows in between. He watched till his eyes were frozen wide and his bottom grew into his chair, and his chin turned into a tuning dial and an antenna grew out of his hair, and his brains turned into TV tubes and his face to a TV screen, and 2 knobs saying Vert and Horace grew where his ears had been, and he grew a plug that looked like a tail, so we plugged in little Jim. And now instead of watching TV, we all sit around and watch him. Okay, so we're going to read our first stanza again, and it basically just goes, I'll tell you the story of Jimmy Jet. and you know what I'll tell you is true. He loved to watch his TV set almost as much as you. What rhyme scheme do we think that is? Yeah, so that one is our A-B-A-B rhyme scheme. So we have Jimmy Jet, what I tell you is true, TV set, almost as much as you. So our A is the jet, or et sound. Our B is the oo sound. A again is et, and B is oo. But that, again, is not repeated through the whole poem. Let's do this one. He watched till his eyes were frozen wide, and his bottom grew into his chair, and his chin turned into a tuning dial, and antenna grew out of his hair. What rhyme scheme do we think that one is? Yeah, that is the ABCB again. So something really cool about the ABCB one is you have a lot more freedom with words that you can choose, because sometimes it's a bit tricky to find words that have the same ending sound, like nice and nice. Sometimes that can be a bit tricky, so you have a lot more freedom with what words you can use, because these two don't have to rhyme. They can have different sounds. You really only need these ones to rhyme. Okay, so our next poem, we have Green Eggs and Ham. We're not going to read the whole book. We're just going to read a little excerpt from it. We have, I do not like them in a house. I do not like them with a mouse. I do not like them here or there. I do not like them anywhere. I do not like green eggs and ham. I do not like them, Sam I am. Would you eat them in a box? Would you eat them with a fox? Not in a box with a fox. Not in a house, not with a mouse. I would not eat them here or there. I would not eat them anywhere. I would not eat green eggs and ham. I do not like them, Sam I am. Would you, could you, in a car? Eat them, here they are. I would not, could not, in a car. You may like them, you will see. You may like them in a tree. I would not, could not, in a tree. Not in a car, you let me be. I do not like them in a box. I do not like them with a fox. I do not like them in a house. I do not like them with a mouse. I do not like them here or there. I do not like them anywhere. I do not like green eggs and ham. So the last stanza where it goes, I would not, could not, in a tree, not in a car, you let me be. Those two lines have the same ending sound. I do not like them in a box. I do not like them with a fox. Those two have the same ox sound. I do not like them in a house. I do not like them with a mouse. House and mouse have the same ouse sound. And then I do not like them here or there. I do not like them anywhere. They have the same ending sound. So based on that, when each line in order has the same ending sound, what rhyme scheme is that? That's the AABB, yes. Okay. Next, we're going to read an excerpt from Oh, the Places You'll Go by Dr. Seuss as well. So let's start. Congratulations, today is your day. You're off to great places, you're off and away. You have brains in your head, you have feet in your shoes. You can steer yourself in any direction you choose. You're on your own, and you know what you know, and you are the guide who will decide where you go. You'll look up and down streets, look 'em over with care, and about some you will say, I do not choose to go there. With your head full of brains and your shoes full of feet, you're too smart to go down any not-so-good street. And you may not find any you'll want to go down. In that case, of course, you'll head straight out of town. All right. So let's start with the first page. Congratulations, today is your day. You're off to great places, you're off and away. That one is which rhyme scheme? Yes, A, B, C, B. Let's do You'll look up and down streets, look 'em over with care. About some you will say, I don't choose to go there. Which one is that? You'll look up and down streets, look 'em over with care. About some you will say, I don't choose to go there. Yeah, that's also ABCB. Let's see. Yeah, this book uses a lot of ABCB rhymes. So we have, and you may not find any you'll want to go down. In that case, of course, you'll head straight out of town. So that is also an ABCB rhyme. So a lot of them kind of use multiple different rhyme schemes, but this one pretty much follows that ABCB a lot of the time. So like I said before, good poetry does not have to rhyme. I'm going to read you guys a poem that doesn't rhyme, just so you guys can kind of get a taste of other types of poetry. Today we will be focusing on rhyming poetry, but this is also a really good poem that I wanted to share with you guys. It's from The Stuff of Stars. So here's a page. And the ash of those dying stars gathered into planets, and the planets circled other stars, but still no bluebirds, no butterflies, still no snails, no giraffes, still no you, no me. So these pages are not in order, but here's another page. Waiting, waiting, dividing, changing, growing, until at last you burst into the world. So that is still a poem, and it's still a very good poem, but it doesn't have a rhyme or any rhyme schemes or a certain rhythmic pattern that it follows. It does have a rhythm, but it kind of is a little bit more, has a little bit more freedom than a rhyming poem does, because you don't have to use only words that sound similar to each other. So yeah, that was an example of poetry that doesn't rhyme. So I know that was a pretty short example, and I know we read a lot of rhyming poems, but from that, what do you guys think? Do you guys prefer poetry that rhymes or poetry that doesn't rhyme? All right, raise your hand if you prefer rhyming poetry. And non-rhyming? Yeah, so we don't all have to like rhyming poetry. It can really be a fun way to share ideas or, express your own personal style in poetry, but in order to create good poetry, you do not have to rhyme. But like I said, it can be fun, and it can be a good way to get creative with your words. But yeah, I really like rhyming poetry, but I also really do enjoy to read non-rhyming poetry. Okay, so now that we're done with our read aloud, we're going to talk about the activity for today, which is a rhyming and rhythmic poetry activity. And in this activity, you'll choose from the different rhyming techniques to create a poem about either your pet or even a favorite animal. Your poem should use a rhyme scheme to create a rhythmic pattern when read aloud. So you're going to start by choosing which rhyme scheme you'll use. You can use AABB, ABAB, ABCB. And then you're going to brainstorm some traits that describe your pet or your favorite animal, depending on what you choose, and you're going to organize them into a list. So your list will be on this page, where you just write down some traits, some words that describe your pet or your favorite animal. And then, after you've brainstormed, you're going to come up with other words or traits that rhyme with the words you brainstormed in the previous step. And remember that rhyming can be based on end rhymes, alliteration, assonance, and consonants. So I know the directions are a little confusing because it says you should have a rhyme scheme, but if you use something like alliteration or assonance and consonants, it's more difficult to have a rhyme scheme because typically rhyme schemes are based on an end sound. So I guess the direction should say that you can choose between the different rhyming styles or using a rhyme scheme. And then you're going to choose which rhyming style you like best for your poem. So if you do choose the option to create a rhyme scheme, you would use the end sound style. But if you don't want to do that and you'd rather use, say, alliteration, poem that has a lot of letters that start, or a lot of words that start with the same letter, you can totally do that as well. And then our last step, you're going to create an original poem that describes your pet/favorite animal using rhyme schemes or your chosen rhyming style in order to create rhythm. So we're going to read our students will be able to goals. Firstly, students will be able to identify the different rhyme schemes used in poetry. Students will be able to understand the difference between various different rhyming schemes. Students will be able to create their own rhythmic/rhyming poem using the outline techniques. Students will be able to stress and understress certain syllables as they read their original poem out loud. So after you create your poem, we will be reading them out loud just to kind of get a feel for our rhythm and get to hear other examples of our classmates' poems. So finally, on this last page is where you will write your poem. Hopefully this is enough lines, but if you guys need to use the back page, feel free. But yeah, so have fun with this. Don't take it too seriously. Just really find what style you like best and what rhyme scheme you like best and get creative.